We can, and what I want to, so today, we will continue with our topic about the rabbinical concept of the Messiah. We started last week, and I feel, of course, I didn't finish it. It's a large concept, so I think I will repeat some of that today, so we'll all be on the same wavelength. And then when we talk about, we are through with the rabbinic concept of Noachide, which is a abiding concept of every Jew and maybe every Noachide. Then we will devote another class to the fascinating subject of the mystical Messiah that actually prevailed over Judaism for many hundreds of years. But two of them, neither one of them has anything to do with Christianity, and so let's put it right away. When even if we speak about the mystical aspect of Messiah, and this mystical aspect see the Messiah in a very high level, close to the angel and so on. It's still, we don't pray to him. We don't, he's just a higher level of Messiah, but it's not that. We should not mix it with another religion. So having said that, let's repeat some of the things we learned last time. And then we will move on. So if you recall, let's start from there. If you recall, the Rambam, the Maimonides, which is the basis of Orthodox Judaism, okay, this is recognized source of posek, what we call, the one who wrote the code of Orthodox Judaism. He lived in 1100, let's say, AD. So it's far away from Moses, but he also a little bit far away from us too. It's almost 1,000 years between him and us. So the Maimonides, right, and I read it to you last time, that the messianic vision is based on two sources. On Bilam, the prophet in the Torah, in the text of the Torah. He's the only one in Moses' 5 books that speak about Messiah. That's source number one. Source number two are the prophets, Isaiah, Amos, and Micah, Hosea. So we'll cover that, the prophet today also. So these are the two pillars of our conception about what? About rabbinical Messiah. So I can ask you right away, if anyone is still carrying the concept of Messiah that we have from another religion, please shed it away and try to grasp what the rabbinical aspect is saying, based on the Torah, based on the Talmud, and based on the Rambam. So we discussed source number one, Bilam, the famous, look like full like prophet with a she donkey. I don't want to repeat the whole story, but he was hired by the king Balak to curse Israel. And he can, and the accusation was of King Balak, Israel has nothing to do with here. They're going to cross the Jordan River. They are not what they claim to be. They are not really genuine Israelites or Jews. Their faith is not genuine. It's fake. They worship the golden idol, and golden calf, and so on. So the faith, and they look at society. They are like wild ox. They have no country, no flag, those three classical anti-Semite accusation is still here today. When you go back to Israel, you have nothing to do here. You are not real Jews. You don't have the right faith. We Muslim or whatever, we have the right faith. And your society is nothing. You have no society at all. You live in different countries. You actually are French or American or Greek or Polish, whatever you are, but you are not genuine Jews. So, and the society is wild. It's not. There is no society called Jewish society. That's what they claim when they try to return to Israel. So those classical anti-Semite accusations, the first time they were heard is in Book of Numbers, in the mouth of King Balak, the Moabite. So Israel has nothing to do here. They're here for no purpose. They should be driven away. And he hired Prophet Bilam, who was elevated by at that point to almost equal to Moses in his prophecy, and he hired him. He paid him a lot of money, and Bilam is going to curse Israel, chase him out. Lo and behold, he stand on a mountain there, and whatever Hashem put in his mouth, that's what he's saying. He's trying to curse all the time, but every word that Hashem change it, or force him to say praises instead of curses. So he cursed Israel to answer Balak from the three levels: the roots, are they really Israelites, the faith, and their society. Why do I pay attention to Bilam? First of all, he's from the Torah, and he foresees the Messiah. Secondly, whatever he's saying now is going to be the core of Orthodox Judaism approach to Messiah. So every word that Bilam is saying is the base of the rabbinical perception of Messiah, and it's based of Zionist, religious Zionism today. The whole state of Israel was formed because of that prophecy of Bilam. No more and no less. That's why it's so important to focus on Bilam. And he sees Bilam, and Bilam sees Israel from the top of the mountain as a tree planted in the land. And a tree has a root, and the root are the patriarch. And yes, they are Jews. They are descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The tree has a trunk, which is faith. They have a good faith in God. We believe in oneness. It's not what you think, King Balak. They really believe in God. And the canopy of the tree is the society they're going to develop in Israel. And the society is full of judges, Torah court, learning oral Torah and written Torah. That's the canopy. And that tree, lo and behold, will produce good fruit, which is David. I'll put here maybe some slide. So we are talking about Bila Messiah. These are the accusations of King Balak. They are not a real Israel. They don't have faith, and their society is white like oxen. And the answer of Balaam is, you see a tree planted in the land of Israel. The root of the tree are the patriarch. The trunk is Israel faith. And the canopy is producing delicious fruits that can grow only on that tree. And that delicious fruit is David and the son of David, the Messiah, whom Balaam called Star of Jacob. We learned it last week. The tree also has another meaning. That's what he is saying. He's telling he can see the future, the rabbi said, obviously from the text. He sees the tree planted Israel by Joshua, which is described in the book of Joshua. And the tree developed a trunk faithful to Torah, which is described in the book of Judges, which is next to Joshua. And in the book of Judges, we learned last week, the Ruth, the Moabite, joined Israel, and the oral Torah that is taught, or that's the era by the area of the judges. Boaz was a judge in a Sanhedrin. So this Torah, that oral Torah, the written Torah says no Moabite can join Israel ever. Come the oral Torah, you say it's only male, not female. It's not written, but it's oral Torah that prevails. So there is an oral Torah in the book of Judges, in that era. And the canopy, and in time it will be Jerusalem. David come and conquer Jerusalem, establishes kingship. And here we have the king of David, and Balaam see not only the king of David, but son of David, future, the king Messiah. Okay, that we learned last week. The stages are important. The book of Joshua, the book of Judges, Samuel, building the root, establishing a root in land of Israel, developing Torah community, building Jerusalem, building the temple, as described in those books. I don't know if you ever thought about the book of the Bible that's on your shelf, that they are in certain order. And that order is not just an historical order. It's the order that's necessary to bring the Messiah. Whenever Israel returned from exile to Israel, to the land, whenever they plant themselves again in the Holy Land, like today, when Israel needs to build itself like that tree. It will have to establish itself in a ground, like Joshua, is to settle the land, build agriculture, a country, build Torah community like the trunk here, academies, Torah Academy, judges, Sanhedrin, build Jerusalem, even build a temple. If we do that, we come closer to restoration of kingship of David and restoration and going forward to see the Messiah. That's the importance of Bilam. The Bilam give you the steps that Israel has to take never to return to Israel, to the land of Israel from exile, to bring back restored kingship of David and to restore the Messiah. So in that rabbinical approach, which is actually form of Siddur, when I stay Amida prayer, I repeat those days. And I pray for the Messiah. In that rabbinical approach, there is no room for a Messiah that descends suddenly from heaven and take us to the land of Israel and we follow him blindly. Because the Messiah is the end product, according to this rabbinical approach, which is quoted by the Rambam and quoted around Siddur in the prayer book, Mida. According to that approach, this Messiah has nothing to do with this other Messiah that you are familiar with. Not even with the mystical Messiah that we learn about the book of Yetzirah, book of Zohar. We learn it next week. It's a mystical Messiah, but the rabbinical Messiah, which is abiding, and I repeat on that view twice a day in Hamida prayer. This Messiah is the end product. I first need to settle myself in the land of Israel. I first need to build a Torah community. I first need to re-establish a Sanhedrin, Torah court, yeshivot, and I build a community that will give fruit to this precious soul called David and called Messiah. And like any tree, the product, the fruit depend on the ground, on the atmosphere, on the wind, on the temperature. So God, the answer of Bilam to Balak was, they are here for purpose. God wanted them to be here because God is cultivating the Messiah. He raising a tree, and that tree can grow not in Northern Ireland and not in near Peking, in China. God in his wisdom decided that this area right here is the best place to raise such a precious soul of David and the son of David. Okay. So here is a Bilam vision and the importance of it. And now we move on. Remember, the Rambam says that Bilam, I read the whole text to you last week. Rambam says that Bilam foresaw two Messiah. It doesn't refer to Messiah ben Joseph, this mystical Messiah of God. This just doesn't play a role for the Rambam. He ignored completely this mystical thing. When the Rambam says two Messiah, he refers to what? To David. You write it. David and the son of David. So it refers to Bilam words. And we learned last week, word by word, line by line, he says, here Bilam speak about the first Messiah, David. Next to it, he speak about the son of David, what we call the king Messiah. So he brings the example from Bilam words, and Bilam speak about two Messiah. The first and the last one. First one is David, and the last one is the son of David. One day will come. Now let's pause a little bit and think, what does it mean to be Messiah? Why David is the first Messiah, and why his son is the last one, Messiah? What's the meaning of Messiah mean here? And here we go to the simple meaning of the technical, and the meaning of the word Messiah. Messiah is, technically speaking, one who is anointed by the holy oil from the holy temple. That's what Messiah in Hebrew means. So King Saul, before David, was the first one to be anointed. And he's called the Messiah King because he was anointed by the oil, and he died in the war with the Philistines. Came David, he was also anointed by Prophet Samuel. And on the line of David house, he is the first one. That's why the Rambam call him, he is the first Messiah from David's house, and his son of David one time will come. He is the son of David. We will discuss in a minute, but why do we need the second one? I'm right now talking about the concept of Messiah. So all the children of David who were put on the throne for hundreds of years, they were all anointed by the holy oil, and they are all Messiah King. What is it? Why did they anoint or smear the head of the king with this oil? This oil was first was made by Moses many years earlier, and they use it to smear or to anoint all the vessels of the temple, and they are fresh use. The menorah, the table, the altar, everything there was smeared or anointed one time with the oil. And the high priest, when he was elected, he was anointed, so he's a Messiah priest. And the king of Israel is also anointed on the coronation day. Why? It is believed that if you're anointed by the holy oil from the temple, it would endow the king with some holiness, not as it become an angel or suspend in the air and do miracles. Is holier than other people, and he got the special care by God, special providence by God to help him in war and to help him to become wise and rule wisely and see things that otherwise he wouldn't see. That's Isaiah. Isaiah will talk more about the talent of the Messiah King. So that's the reason they anointed the king. That by itself did make the king a nice person. Many of the king of David dynasty were actually wicked and idol worshippers. For instance, King Ahaz, Isaiah's brother, He was in the line of David. He was anointed. And look at chapter 1 in Isaiah. He rebuked his own brother. He's a wicked person who actually cheats the treasure of the country. He issue false coins, take advantage, and he's idol worshiper. This is Isaiah's own brother. And he's anointed king. He's an anointed Messiah. In Jewish terms, in the original term, because he's anointed. Of course, Isaiah now, chapter 2, go on and say, okay, now one day it will be that a child will come to us, and he will be completely different than all my family here. Here is a young lady giving birth, and his name is Emmanuel. He will be the real King Messiah, and he will be blessed with all kind of talent. We'll go over there. So the point is that being Messiah, king, or because being anointed, putting oil on your head, even if it's from the high temple, it doesn't make you a righteous person automatically by fault. You still have free will. You are still influenced by politics, by desires, and you are a man with all the traps that regular men have, and maybe even more, because you are a king. So that's when Rambam Maimonides says David was the first anointed king Messiah. It means that King Samuel poured this, as you remember the book of Samuel, he poured on his head the oil. He went to his house, his father's house. He didn't know who was the boy. He knew that he has to, Hashem told him, find a boy and put the oil on him. He's the man that I chose. And he looked at David's brother, actually. He was so tall and mighty and smart. And he thought each one of them was a candidate. But God said, no, this one, no, not this one, no, not this one, not this one. So after he went through, so Samuel turned to his father, Ishai, do you have another son? He said, oh, this is the young one. He's there outside with the sheep. And I want to see him. As soon as he put his eyes on the boy, and he saw his beautiful eyes and red hair, actually. I imagine David, blue eyes and red hair. He came from Moab. And he saw the boy. Hashem told him, this is the one. Okay, so he put his oil secretly, clandestinely on oil, because the king Saul was still in power. If King Saul would have found it, he would have killed both of them as a rebellion. It's rebellious. So secondly, he put his oil on King David, but the oil didn't really make him a king. He made him successful against Goliath, against the Philistine. And whenever he turned, the verse says, Hashem was with him. So Israel finally, the elderly, is elected in the city of Hebron when he was 30 years old, and he was appointed as a king. So he's a Messiah king. So if that's Cain, and all his children were Messiah king. So why do we need then, if that's so, why does Balaam go on and immediately say, okay, There is another one down the road. The star Jacob come from David. So why do I need that star? David is already here. And the answer is profound. Because Bilam himself tell you why. When he talk about David, he says, David will restore the peace and fight against the enemy, including your nation, Balak. According to your nation. He will fight a war against Israel, was successful, and he will consolidate the country. His intention will be inside the country. Consolidate the country, the 10 tribes, the 12 tribes into one kingdom. Major work. Conquering Jerusalem as his capital and starting the temple. Major work. That's David. By the son of David, Bilam says, will be different. When he comes, the temple will be already standing up. And the house of David is already in power. According to Bilam, the house of David will always be restored first. A key point in the rabbinical perception. In my prayer, in the Amida prayer, I first pray, God, I want to restore, help us to restore the kingship of David. And then the next request, separate request, God, we want to see the offshoot of David, the tree, Messiah. So when Messiah, according to that perception, comes, everything in Israel is already in order. There's kingship of David, in power. Even the temple standing up. I'm not so sure about the Shekhinah in the temple, but the building is already there. So why do we need the Messiah then, you can ask? And many ask, and leave it unanswered, because they don't look at Bilam. And Bilam himself says when Messiah comes, he will turn to the other nations outside Israel. He will change Amalek. He will share all the nations far and near, and he will bring humanity to become the children of Sheth. Now you may ask, wow, what does it mean? That's the last word of his prophecy is that the Messiah will come and bring humanity or change this kind of uproot humanity, maybe from idolatry, and push them to become Sheth. And people, of course, who don't know the Torah, they think that Sheth is a name of a nation. There's no such thing. We know the name of the nations in Moses' time, none of them was called Sheth. There was Egypt, there was Babylon, but no Sheth. Sheth was the grandson of Adam. Revered, the youngest grandson of Adam. On Adam it says, on him it says, Adam made many children. But on Sheth, his beloved youngest one, he says, on Sheth he was born in the image and form of Adam. No other child got such a verse, such a praise, the image or form of Adam. Now we recall that Adam himself was made in the image of form of God. So if it come out that Shet himself is an image of form of God, which means what? And here, Bilam put it at the end. Messiah will bring all mankind to be Shet, to be the image and form of God. Because when God made us, he said, let us make Adam in our form, in our image. And we learn what Rashi says, that God made the image and form of ideal Adam in his head. And he said, let us make Adam. Adam will be just another stage, maybe of the evolution, whatever. Let us make Adam. But he will be, I give him the talent and the capability to become image and form of us, the two attributes. Unlike all other animals can never be like the two attributes. They can be smart, wise, but we never understand what the attribute of mercy is all about. For instance, Adam will able to elevate himself from being an animal, smart animal, and he will be like us, like Shet. Shet is the ideal Adam who is made by the image and form that Elohim made Adam his mind, and he made us. So where are we going? To become Shet. And that's what Bilam is saying. You know why we need the Messiah? To lead humanity there. David, house of David, will do its job with Israel, consolidate Israel, teach the Torah, install the Torah, install righteousness, and so on. He may take care of close enemies, close to Israel. But the Messiah, when he comes, he will turn his face to the outside world, to the nation, teach them to keep the 7 commandments, teach them the Torah, to live in Hashem is one, as the Prophet Zechariah would say. One day, all the nation will know Hashem in one. So how would they know? By this Messiah will teach them. So this is a core of rabbinical understanding what the Messiah is. A descendant from a special descendant of David's house. He will come mainly to change mankind. So now we know why God wanted Israel to be planted on that garden called land of Israel. And that tree will produce such fruit that can change mankind. Not to force all the nation to Judaism. Not to marshal armies with a sword and banner and flag and to kill all the infidels. That's no. Don't mix it with other. Don't mix it with idolatry. According to Bilam, which got the stamp of approval for Moses, because it's part of the 10 book of, it is qualified to be part of the 5 books. So according to the Bilam view, the Messiah is there to teach mankind. And of course, to do that, Hashem will endow him with all the talent and the charisma and the understanding that Prophet Isaiah talked about in chapter 2 and chapter 11. We will see later on when he speaks about Messiah. That's what Messiah is. Okay. So we answer, again, let me repeat, we discuss the concept of Messiah, anointed one, and the anointment with the oil endowed the king with special spirit, but it won't protect him from falling apart and doing awful things. The hope is that one of the king, one of the children of a dynasty, here is a lady that is going to give a baby. You know, this baby will be different. You know, Isaiah, his own grandson, King Menashe, killed him. Isaiah's own grandson, Menashe, was the worst idol worshiper ever in Judaism. That's the environment in which Isaiah lived in Jerusalem. All of them were Messiah king. King Menashe got the oil on his head, and King the grandson, and his brother Achaz had the oil on his head. And they were the worst idol worshiper and committed awful crimes. Lo and behold, there's no wonder that Isaiah looking in awe, where are we going to see? We're going to see the prophecy of Balaam being fulfilled. I want to see a good child coming and leading mankind. You all be royal to Hashem and leading mankind forward. Here is a lady giving birth. Okay. 2, and the Messiah will teach mankind to forward. Let's see the next slide, which okay. Okay. The next point I want to go, before we move on, I want to go back to Balaam here. Something that happened to him, that he lost his eye. Okay. Balaam, as I said, he was as equal to Moses, according to the rabbi, at that point. Later on, he reverted back to become a magician. But at that point, he saw things. And what he saw was struck him the most. Because he saw David, and he saw Ruth from the Moabites. And remember the trunk of the tree, the trunk of the book of Judges, the faith, the oral Torah, and so on. When he saw Ruth there, in that area that presents the trunk, the second book of the Bible, after Joshua, the Judges. So when he saw Ruth coming from Moab, and so David came from Ruth, Ruth came from Balak himself, who stand in front of him, and Balak, the king of Moab, coming from Sodom and Gomorrah, to be more precise, from the Lot's daughter. We know she, at the time of the overturn of Sodom, she slept with her father. She gave birth. She called him Moab, which means in Hebrew, from my father. She was not shy from that ancestral relationship. This is Moab. This is for my child. Can you imagine? This is the child, I got it for my father. That kind of culture she grew up. Now, what was the sin of Sodom? Why was it overturned? The Torah says when Abraham toured the land, when he first came to the land of Israel, Holy Land, he toured the land, he came to Sodom, and it says that the people of Sodom were exceedingly evil, exceedingly sinner to Hashem, exceedingly. They were, as Rashi says, they knew Hashem and they rebelled against him or her. They knew the seventh commandment and they were acquainted with everything that Adam taught, Noah taught, about the attribute, about having a court, giving the seventh commandment, the story of Eden. They knew everything. And they rebelled against it viciously. They did the opposite. We spend, if you look back to our classes, we spend time to discuss how they overturned, how they violated the seventh commandment one by one, according to the Talmud. How they violated adultery, and bloodshed and theft. Everything is mockery and fun. When a man came to Lot's house, they besiege his house, and they say, let us see the man in your house. We want to know them. That's really nice. And we want to know the guests. But there's a mockery here, because to know here means sodomite act. So let's give you an idea of what the Sodom is, or was. To do the opposite of Abraham intentionally. The opposite of seventh commandment viciously, is mockery, intentionally. When you go to Germany, to the Auschwitz, Arbeit, work is make you free to deceive the victims. That's mockery. They know why did they need the mockery? Because they know what the Bible, but they did the opposite, viciously, they were evil, cruel, the opposite of the merciful one. They rebelled against her. The Torah says they were evil to Hashem, not to Elohim, to Hashem. So Hashem had no choice. They in Abraham could not live on the same planet. They were such a degree of the opposite of Abraham. One of them has to be overturned. So Hashem decided, let me overturn the Sodomite for the sake of Abraham. So by overturning Sodom and Gomorrah, we didn't keep, their main fault was the seventh commandment. They violated. So there was a spark of holiness in that girl, Lot's daughter, that she saved. She thought she did essential, incense, terrible abomination. It was an abomination to sleep with the father. What can you think more despicable thing than that? But she had a spark of holiness in that Sodom and Gomorrah. So Hashem, that's what Bilam is saying. Hashem took that spark, made it a larger spark in generation from her children to King Balak himself standing in front of him. He had a larger spark in Hashem. He understood what Hashem is. He just didn't want Israel to be here. I am better than them. but he had some holy flame in him. He actually prayed to Hashem. He offered oxen to Hashem. And from that King Balak, the enemy of Israel, would come King Eglon, and King Eglon, the Moabite enemy of Israel, his book of Judges. And from him came Ruth, huge flame of holiness in her, burning in devotion. And from her would come David, the author of Psalms. And from David will come the Messiah, whose whole job is to teach mankind the 7th commandment that the Sodomite rejected. So when Bilam saw that, he fell on the ground. Clearly you saw the hand of Hashem moving history. He was so struck with such awe that he called Hashem Shaddai. Shaddai means, one of the meaning of Shaddai is the breath, nourishing the world. He saw the hand of Hashem nourishing humanity like this tree, taking from the spark that the root is that spark in that girl in Sodom, and turn it to a big trunk, to a larger trunk, and finally you get Messiah that will turn around and do the opposite of Sodom and Gomorrah. He will teach mankind to join Abraham's seed and to join Noah and do the 7th commandment. So that's why he was struck and he called, oh, Hashem El Shaddai. Such wonderful verses to read. So here until now, I didn't touch the prophet himself. I think we need to read them. I wanted to read for you what Isaiah says. It's important because you don't hear it when you go to other places. They quote you Isaiah distorted and misread. And I want to read Isaiah, to read Micha, to read Amos, Hosea, all the prophets that were parallel to Isaiah. And what did they think about? Do they concur with Bilam? What do they think about the Messiah? Okay. And we'll talk about how the rabbi finally encoded all that in the Amidah prayer. How did he play in the Second Temple time? And yes, it did affect Jesus' trial, although I usually don't like to talk about it. But there is a distortion here of the fact. You need to know who were the judges sitting at the court that judged this man. And what they did, it does not, if it happened, they did not reflect anything that the rabbinical vision is. They were not sages who were sitting there in that trial in Passover night. No sage, Torah sage, will sit in judgment in Passover night. So we'll mention it. I will maybe mention the lost ark in the Dead Sea. The Dead Sea scrolls, and then we move to this. We still need to move in our class here finally to understand what the mystical vision of Judaism is about the Messiah, talk about book of Yetzirah, book of Zohar, the Lorianic vision of Messiah, how it has affected Judaism in the last hundreds of years, what happened that it fell apart, this vision, in favor of the classical Rambam approach. And how is it that today we don't teach anymore the mystical Messiah? We don't teach anymore calculations of his arrival. We don't, some yeshivot went so far away from that. They don't even teach the prophet. Some Haredi, most of Haredi, yeshivot, ultra-Orthodox Judaism, they were so pissed off with the calculations and the mystical vision of this. The people are so pissed off with so many bad consequences. They decided about 150 years ago, completely ignore the prophet. They don't teach. You ask a Shiva boy from the Haredi, they don't know anything about the prophet. It's really bad. And already it's because of the scare of calculations, the scare of mystical view, and the scare from the consequences of that view. And in fact, it's not even legitimate view, because the only legitimate view in Judaism is the one I described to you right now on the Rambam, and that's what the religious Zionism today is based on the Rambam, on the Vilna Gaon, end of 18th century, Vilna Gaon, and religious Zionism that actually made the state of Israel today. We don't wait for mystical Messiah to arrive anymore. We don't calculate the time. It's prohibited. Okay. Any question for me? Small or large?
Yeah, Rabbi, thank you for your class. I appreciate you kind of going through this with us, because I think a lot of people look around at the world and the wars and things like that, and want to talk about the Messiah. And I guess I understand it, but I'm appreciative of these classes. But I really have two questions.
Yes.
And my first one is, so is the Messiah a political figure like King David, or a spiritual leader, or both? And why have I heard that the Messiah will be a Moses-like figure, combating evil, if you will, against Pharaoh, like Moses did against Pharaoh in Egypt?
What? It was the last part of your question. Can you repeat it?
Yeah, so I've heard that the Messiah will be not like David, but like Moses, who will sort of, I guess, combat evil, if you will, kind of like Moses did with Pharaoh in Egypt.
It was what did they? I didn't understand. What about the evil?
It's like a good versus evil type situation.
Look, if you start talking about how many different legends and how many different stories about the Messiah, that all of that come with it under the topic of mystical Messiah that we didn't touch. When you talk about the mystical Messiah, there is unlimited number of legendary stories and interpretations that are completely wrong, completely baseless, a product of imagination, and they have nothing to do with what the rabbinical and the Torah view of the Messiah is. If you say that Moses had to be a Messiah, to a Christian, it makes sense. Because a Messiah in the term of Christianity is more than Moses. To the rabbis who just talk about the Messiah as we described today, it's a joke. I mean, you want to take the oil from the temple and pour on Moses' head that he will be endowed with some kind of a talent? Moses that spoke to God face to face, he needed oil that he himself made. So when you talk about the rabbinical concept of Messiah, your question falls apart right away. So you say, but I heard the people talk about it and I read it. That's what I started the classes with the statement like this, that I give the classes for you, Noachai, for us, that from the ton of information that you get from the internet and from different speakers, I just wanted to give you the tool to sit there in front of the speaker or before the text that you read or the speaker that you hear, and in your mind you make the judgment. You ask yourself, the speaker is very nice, so talented, speaks well, he knows the Torah, he quote. But what kind of Messiah is talking about? Does he really talk about the rabbinical Messiah that based on Bilam and the rabbis and the Siddur and the Rambam that we just described? Or does he speak about kind of magical Messiah that out of that, a different kind of? And it could be that the speaker will quote to you all kind of work, like a Sefer Yetzirah, a Sefer Taichalot. There are many. Sefer Yetzirah is only one of them. There are a whole literature called the Palace books, and we'll talk about it, composed in the 8th, 7th, 9th, 10th centuries AD, at the time of Yetzirah, composed under Byzantine. And those books take you to completely imaginary world, nothing to do with the Messiah that we spoke about. So you need to decipher again. Does a person speak about steps that they're coming back to Israel, planting himself, building the country, storing by David house, praying to the Messiah? Does it go in line with that? And that the Messiah will just teach mankind the 7th commandment of all things? Does a person speak about that kind of Messiah? Or does it speak about kind of imaginary Messiah, the Messiah that can be, that Moses can be converted to him? Or Moses, he could bend down to evil place to save. There was a legend that the Messiah has to go to evil place to kill evil there. You know what? We have false Messiah in 15th century. It's called 16th century, called Shabtai Zvi. He was so charismatic, full of Kabbalah. Maybe hundreds of thousands people flocked after him, waited for him. He was extremely revered. 1665, 1666. Until he was so arrogant, he came to the Sultan And he said, and he wanted to convert the Sultan to Judaism. So the Sultan says simply, either you convert to Christianity, to Islam, or you separate, I separate your head from your body. And this revered Messiah converted to Islam. And thousands of people who followed him did the same thing. And you ask them, why do you do that? Why did you leave your Judaism and convert it to Islam? He said, oh, our Messiah went to the Islam, to the evil place to destroy it within. And I quote verses for that. Okay, so there's no end to all this distortion of the verses that can explain false Messiah, Kabbalistic Messiah. And your question, I don't know if I answer your question, but that's, of course, when you talk about Messiah, you talk about different Messiah, not the rabbinic. Behind me, before I leave, is a slide I wanted to show you. We show the steps that Balaam saw from Sodom and Gomorrah against Abraham, and then came Moab, King Balak, King Eglon, and generations. And then King Balak is the time of Balaam, and then King Eglon, the father of Ruth, and Ruth the Moabite. From her came King David. From him came Messiah King, and he will call mankind to join Abraham and keep the seventh commandment. So the beginning is red, and the top is red. Hashem destroyed Sodom, the wicked people, by brimstone and fire, and he found a spark of holiness. And from this spark of holiness, he cultivated the Messiah. We will go against Sodom and Gomorrah and tell people to join Abraham and to keep the seventh commandment. And that's El Shaddai, the nourisher, the one who nourishes the world like a breast. That's what Balaam saw. And he was such in awe that he lost an eye. There's a beautiful story there. I don't want to take your time for that. All right, think about it. A lot of information. And God willing, we'll see you next week. We'll continue. Nobody is rushing us. And we need to go take our pave. And at least we understand. I wanted people to understand the topic thoroughly. Okay. So Ev Shabbat, give a good Shabbat. And Hashem will be with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.